This is the lesson notes for day 2 of 5-4, which is solving radical equations. First thing is take your note sheet, please, and draw in the line underneath, topic and details, and the line down here, since this is a 2-column note section, just to set it up properly. Now let's go ahead and do these types of problems. There's a new type of problem where it's going to ask you to solve, in this case, for a different variable. And when it says solve for a variable, usually when there's just one variable, that means you get a number on the other side. But what if there are 2 variables in the problem? Like here, you've got 2 variables. So when it says that, when it says solve for a variable, that means to get the variable by itself. So if it were here, for instance, once you've done in the past, you've done this with linear equations, graphing lines, you'd have problems like this, like 3x plus 2y equals 24, and the directions might be solve for y. If that's the case, then we want to get the y all by itself, get everything else on the other side of the equation. So we'll first subtract 3x from both sides. So we get 24 minus 3x, and then we go ahead and divide by 2 or multiply everything by 1/2. So you get y equal, I'm going to put the x term first because you're used to seeing it this way. You get 3/2 x, and then multiply the 24 by 1/2 and you get 12. So that got the y all by itself. That's kind of the goal in these problems. So this first one here, when we have radicals involved, when we get y by itself, I'm going to first of all get rid of that 1/3 by multiplying both sides by 3. So it'll look like this. And so I get 3x plus 12 equals, that 1/3 times 3 is just 1 square root of y. And now I square both sides to get rid of the square root. So you're going to have 3x plus 12 squared equal to y. Now we should simplify the 3x plus 12. So I'm going to do that over here. 3x plus 12 squared. So let's multiply that out by double distributing. And so what you get is 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 12 is 36x. 12 times 3x is 36x. And then 12 times 12 is 144. And so when I combine those, I get my final answer. Y by itself, solve for y, is 9x squared. I've got 72x here. And then plus 144. Just make that equal sign a little smaller. Equals the y there. Okay, so 9x squared plus 72x plus 144 equals y. Let's do the same thing for this one. This one, when I want to get at that y, I got to get rid of that 4 in the denominator. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. So you get 4x equal to the 5th root of 2y. And now I want to get rid of the 5th root. Now the 5th root, you get rid of by putting both sides to the 5th power. So you're going to have 4x to the 5th power equals just the 2y, what's underneath the 5th root. You put 4 to the 5th power, and you're going to get 1024. And x to the 5th power equals 2y. Now divide both sides by 2, and so the 1024 divided by 2 gives me 612 x to the 5th for an answer. Right, now the next thing I want to do, notice that these both only have x's in it. So now I want to go back to just solving equations with only one variable in it. And this, I want to talk about that checking for extraneous solutions. The ones we've done up to this point, they've all checked and it's all been fine. And this one, what we want to do is check to see if all the solutions work, and we're going to find that sometimes they don't. So when we look at this, and the reason why is, notice if I want to get rid of this here, I'm going to square both sides. When you square both sides, that does turn negatives into positives, so that could make a statement that's incorrect, a negative equal to a positive, into a correct statement. So that's why it could be a problem of creating extra answers. So let's square both sides. You get x squared equal to 2x plus 15. Then you go ahead and let's subtract 2x, subtract 15 from both sides. Then we're going to factor to solve. So if you factor this, you're going to get x minus 5, x plus 3 equal to 0. Set this equal to 0 and you get x equal to 5. Set this equal to 0 and you get x equal to negative 3. Now let's check both of those to see if they work. So do your check down here. Put in 5 into the original equation. So does 5 equal square root of 2 times 5 plus 15? Does 5 equal 2 times 5 is 10 plus 15 is 25? Yes, 5 does equal the square root of 25. So that one checks. 5 is an answer. Now let's check negative 3. Put that into the original. Negative 3, does that equal the square root of 2 times negative 3 plus 15? And the clue here is you have a negative equal to a square root. You can't get a negative out of a square root, so it doesn't look like it's going to work. Let's check it out. Does negative 3 equal the square root of negative 6 plus 15 is 9? Does negative 3 equal 3? And the answer is no, it does not. So because you get an incorrect statement, then negative 3 is not an answer. So my only answer is 5 to this one, not the negative 3. Let's try this one. This is another one of those where it's got the square root on both sides. So when I square both sides, it will get rid of that square root. 10x equals 12x plus 26. Okay, now I go ahead and subtract. Let's subtract 12x from both sides. You get negative 2x equals 26. X equals negative 13. All right, now we're going to try that one by checking it. And if I put that in, notice that I get the square root of 10 times negative 13 is negative 130. Does that equal 12 times negative 13? Let's see, that's going to be, I'll just write it out. 12 times negative 13 plus 26. That does give me the same thing. It gives me the square root of negative 130. Now you can take square roots of negatives. You can't get negatives out of square roots, but you can take the square root of negatives when you involve complex numbers. You get I as an answer. So really this is I square roots of 130 does equal I square roots of 130. So it does check. So my answer is negative 13. So here are several more examples. First of all, of solving for a variable when you have two variables in the equation. Get that variable by itself. And the second type is checking for extraneous answers. Sometimes all the answers won't work out once you do the check.